The Houston Texans are trading away wide receiver Brandin Cooks to the Dallas Cowboys in exchange for the Cowboys' 5th round selection in this year's draft plus their 6th round pick in the 2024 NFL draft. I think this is a really good pickup by the Dallas Cowboys. They've been in the market for wide receiver help. There were a lot of reports that said that they had a lot of interest in trading for DeAndre Hopkins, but the Cardinals were asking for a 2nd round pick plus additional compensation in exchange for D-Hop services. So going after Brandin Cooks was the next best thing because, for one, you were able to get a really good wide receiver for less. Although, if we had to choose between DeAndre Hopkins and Brandin Cooks, the majority of us would pick DeAndre Hopkins. Brandin Cooks is no slouch. He's bounced around a couple of teams. He's played for the Saints, the Patriots, the Rams, recently the Texans, and now he's a member of America's team. And everywhere Brandin Cooks has been, he's produced at a pretty solid level. And I think that he's been one of the NFL's most underrated wideouts for over the last couple of years. And throughout his pro career, he's only had 3 seasons where he hasn't had at least 1,000 yards receiving. So that goes to show you just how productive Brandin Cooks has been. Now he's going to the Dallas Cowboys, going into a situation where he isn't going to be asked to be the number 1 guy like he has been for the last couple of years that he was in Houston. He's going to be able to take some of the attention off of CeeDee Lamb, along with giving Dak Prescott another good, reliable option to throw the football to. If you are the Houston Texans, you're probably a little bit disappointed at the compensation that you got back in return for Brandin Cooks, only a 5th and a 6th rounder. You probably would have loved to at least get a 3rd rounder for Brandin Cooks, but the Texans didn't really have a lot of leverage in this situation. Brandin Cooks has wanted out of Houston for a while now. Plus, he's getting up there in age. For a franchise like the Houston Texans that is more focused on trying to rebuild and retool versus trying to win now, it just made sense to trade away Brandin Cooks. He's going to turn 30 in a couple of months. He has a cap hit this year of $26.4 million. His cap hit next year would be $24.6 million. It just didn't make a lot of sense to keep Brandin Cooks around, especially with him not wanting to remain in Houston. I've seen a good amount of people say that it was kind of dumb for Houston to trade away their best receiver because now who is their potential rookie quarterback going to be throwing to? I don't really think it's going to be too hard for the Texans to find Brandin Cooks' replacement. They do have a lot of draft capital, so they can draft his replacement via the draft, or they could sign a receiver in free agency because they do have a lot of money to spend. So I'm not really too worried about who's going to end up replacing Brandin Cooks in this Texans offense. Don't forget about John Mechie. John Mechie didn't play at all last year. He is expected to return this season. So I think that the Houston Texans will be perfectly fine without Brandin Cooks. It's not like Brandin Cooks was an elite receiver. He was a really good receiver, but good receivers come a dime a dozen. It's way harder to find an elite quarterback than it is to find a good wide receiver. So I'm not really too concerned about who the Texans are going to try to find to replace Brandin Cooks. And plus, right after they made this trade, news came out that they signed left tackle Laremy Tunsil to a long-term deal, making him the NFL's highest paid left tackle. So even though the Cowboys obviously won this trade, they only gave up 2 late-round selections for a guy of Brandin Cooks' caliber. That's a steal. But I don't think the Texans are in a really bad spot after this trade. All they get is more draft capital, and plus they free up some more salary cap. So let me know what you guys think about this trade down in the comment section down below. Make sure that you like the video, subscribe to the channel for more NFL videos and content, and I will see you guys shortly with another video.